Farrell. So I've had some questions this week about the course paper pre-assignment for our personality psychology class. And so I wanted to um, do a video for you to show you what I am looking for. So let me bring up my screen so you can see it. Okay, so here is the homepage for our course, right? So as we know, every week on Monday morning, I update this. So we scroll down to find the course paper pre-assignment, which is due this week at the end of the week. And a couple things that I want you to know is, so the course paper is it's worth 20% or 200 points of your total grade, right? And there's a lot of research that shows that students tend to not look at an assignment until the assignment is coming up. Like they're not looking for their exit until they know that the exit is within, the next 3 or 4 exits type deal. Whereas what I kind of want you to do is, as you're thinking about driving down the highway, I want you to have looked at, what's your exit number, 20 miles from where your exit is, just so you can keep in mind, like, okay, I need to be in the right-hand lane for my exit by the time I get to this number, because otherwise I might miss my exit, right? So what I've started doing is having the assignment, the biggest assignment for the course broken down into smaller bits that really make you interact with the assignment early on in the course so that you can really be thinking about this exit that's coming up. Okay. And especially this is going to be important in our shorter courses, an 8-week course, things like that. So the course paper is going to be related to the Gosling text, which is our secondary text for this class. That book is available in Alamo Books Plus, just as our regular, our semester, or I'm sorry, our regular textbook is, the Weiss, Bison Roberts text is. And it's a, the book is it's called a trade paperback, which means that it's something that you could buy at Barnes and Noble. You can buy it on Amazon. If you're a paper, want to hold it, touch it person, you could probably get a used copy of it on, a website for pretty cheap. And Gosling in 2008 published this book where he wrote about his research that relates to personality and basically our stuff and how we display our stuff. So he did research looking at how the big 5 factors personality assessment. So the 5 factors are openness to new experiences, conscientiousness, agreeableness, um, extroversion, and neuroticism. How those 5 factors relate to how we keep our space, what we put in our space, what music we listen to, so music preference. He even has research relating to handshakes. Like there's all sorts of stuff in this book relating to the big 5 factors. So for this completed paper, so for the entire, semester's paper, what we're going to be doing is kind of a 2-part paper. So the first part of your completed course paper is going to look at, or going to demonstrate to me what you found interesting, useful, surprising from the Gosling book. So it's kind of like a book report-ish, where you're telling me, like, Gosling talked about this. I really found this interesting. It made me think about this, things like that. The second part of the course paper is where you're going to look at more recent research relating to things that you found in the Gosling book that you found interesting. So if you thought that the music and big five factors research was interesting, then you want to find more recent research. And the reason for this is the Gosling book was published in 2008. All of the research that was summarized in this book obviously came out before 2008, right? And if you think about it, that's like, almost, but not quite. So I don't feel as old saying this. It's almost 20 years old. Um, and I've asked him multiple times, hey, are you going to revise this? And he said he's not. And so I feel like it's a really interesting book. I feel like um, it's a way to show students how interesting personality research can be because so many of the textbooks are super dry. They're so dry. But this is like a really interesting idea, and a lot of students tell me like I really like this book. I really found it really interesting. I'm like, all right, cool. But the research is getting a little bit old. So what we want to do is we want to find new research and demonstrate, hey, is this still a thing? Or have Americans changed or have humans in general changed? So what we're looking for is research relating to the topics that we found interesting in the Gosling book that are more recent. That's pretty much what we're doing here. Okay. So this course paper pre-assignment is really, first of all, me getting you to say, hey, I need you to look at this assignment. I need you to start thinking about it. And I need you to start thinking about how are you going to put this together? Like, how does this make sense in your head to, the process of doing this? So this assignment has three parts to it. So for the first part, you're going to make me, what you're going to tell me, first of all, what do you think you're going to be writing for the course paper? So basically explain to me what this paper is about. So show me that you understand what we're doing here. And one of the things that you have to do in that section is to make a numbered list of what needs to be done to complete this assignment. And I really suggest to students that they take some time to work on this and make a list that is useful for them. Because in your head, you may think to yourself, like, okay, so first thing I have to do is, read some more of the Gosling book. Second thing I have to do is find a topic or two topics that I find more interesting that I want to do some research on. Third step would be to, go into the databases and find articles. And then once I've found my two articles that I want to use for this paper, then I have to read the first one, then I have to summarize it. So really like breaking it down step by step. Sometimes students will submit this assignment and they'll say, read Gosling book, find the articles, summarize articles, pass in paper. And I'm like, technically, yeah, but that's not going to help you, So, and I do find that the students that have the less comprehensive list like that generally don't tend to do as well on the course paper. So I really want you to take some time with this and think about for you in your head, how does this make sense? Like, how do I do this thing? How do I eat the elephant? I eat it piece by piece, right? So what are your piece by pieces that you need to remind yourself to do so that you can, kind of walk yourself through this process. Now, this page here literally goes over the instructions for the completed course paper. Okay, so we read the Gosling book. We want to find some more recent articles. Actually want to find more recent than that. I should go back and change that now I think about it. But I mean, we're in 2023, so like, can you find anything from 2018 or later? That would be nice, right? So we do want to, we're finding 2 peer-reviewed primary sources from the professional psychology literature. If you don't know what those are, you will find out through this assignment. I've got videos, I've got links, I've got all sorts of stuff that explain them, as well as I've got videos showing you how to use our library's databases to find those types of articles, okay? So this tells you, okay, when you're summarizing an article, what are you going to be typing? What are you going to be explaining to the reader? And this is also a useful list in terms of when I'm looking at an article and I'm trying to decide, like, is this a good source for my paper? Then, can I find a hypothesis? Do they talk about a sample? Do they talk about demographics of a sample? Did they tell me what their methods were? Did they do a survey? Did they do an online survey? Did they do an experiment? If so, what were their actual procedures for doing the experiment, right? What was the type of method? Do they summarize how the data was gathered? Do they tell me what the results are? Do they tell if the results support or refute the hypothesis? If those things aren't present in the source that you're looking at, then most likely it is not a primary source, okay? And it's not a good source for this paper. So here we've got the actual requirements, kind of the nuts and bolts of the nitpicky things about the paper. So it's at least 4 full pages of typing, not more than 5 pages, 12-point font, 1-inch margins on all 4 sides. It has to have a separate reference page. It has to have a separate cover page. I do not want you to do a running head or an abstract. Those are things that are used for publications. We're not publishing these yet. So we can use up to 3 direct quotes for the course paper because you are summarizing 3 sources. But again, I really suggest that students avoid using direct quotes and simply paraphrase or put things into their own words to explain to the reader what they're talking about. Okay. And we are going to submit our rough draft here, and then you're going to submit your working paper to our writing lab or to Brainfuse Online Tutoring. You're going to get feedback on that as well before you finally submit it to the completed course paper assignment, right? So there's the goals for this assignment, and then there's also all sorts of resources. Here's a checklist. Here's a process. Here's a video about primary sources. Here's how to do APA style in-text references, blog posts that I wrote about how to summarize an article, how to use the library to search for articles. I've got a template. Please use the template. It makes it so much easier for you because then you can see, okay, what should go into this section right here. Make sure when you download the template to your computer, though, that you save it as, the template and then start typing on it. So maybe change the title page so that it's got your info on it and then save it as, my course paper or whatever it is. Because there's been multiple times that students have uploaded the template, like what I wrote, to the assignment. I'm like, no, I need your work, not my work. So, and then there's sometimes that like people will go to put their rough draft through, or submit their rough draft and go to submit it through Turnitin, and they still have pieces of the template in there because they didn't remove them, and Turnitin picks it up because it's been submitted before, and I'm like, why is your Turnitin score a 65? And then I'm like, oh, because you kept the parts of the template in there. Okay, so the template is really just kind of, a way to start your paper. It also tells you what should go into each section, but you definitely want to make sure that you're removing all of the bits that I give you and updating them to put in your information. There is an example paper, so you can view and or download that so you can see how another student, it was actually written by a student, how another student wrote this paper. And then if you have questions about like a primary source and how to read it, because I will tell you right now, this is going to be a skill that you are going to need for the rest of your psychology career. It's an important skill to have. Then this is a video that goes through the different parts of a scholarly article. And then, we've talked about learning outcomes. So how does this assignment map to the learning outcomes? And that information is down here as well. Okay. So let's go back to this assignment, which is our course paper pre-assignment. So really, we're just starting to think about, okay, what am I doing here? I've got a lot of students who tell me, well, I don't know what topics from the Gosling book I'm going to write about yet because I'm only on chapter 3. Totally get that. This is early in the game. If you look in the announcements area, there's actually a video link where he talks about book, and he goes into what some of the topics from the book are. And so if you feel like you're not far enough through the book to be able to choose topics, you can watch that video and you can choose some topics from the video. Also, let's say that you finish the book and you're like, oh no, I do not want to talk about handshake and personality. I want to talk about, how people display stuff in their rooms and how that relates to personality traits. It's totally fine to change it. Okay. I really just want you to get started thinking about, like, how am I going to do this multi-step assignment? Okay. So the document that you're creating to submit is going to have 3 parts to it. So first of all, you're going to, in this first part here, you're going to tell me what you think you're going to do for the course paper. All right. So basically explain to me, like I'm not the teacher, what is this course paper thing all about? In that explanation or separate from that, underneath it, whatever, however it makes sense to you, you're going to have your numbered list of what needs to be done to be successful in this paper. Okay, that's part 1. Part 2 is where you're going to talk about what topics you've chosen. And again, you can change these. That's okay. Totally fine, right? I just really want you thinking about already what might you be writing about for your topics. And then in part 3, I want you to tell me what questions you have about finding peer-reviewed primary sources from the professional psychology literature. Now, some of you may have 0 questions. You may be extremely competent in finding primary sources, and that's fantastic. And so in that part 3, all you have to do is say, I currently have no questions about how to find peer-reviewed primary sources. And if I do have questions, I will let you know. And that will get you points for this section. Okay. If you scroll down, you should be able to see the rubric. How am I going to grade this? It's pretty simple. Did you demonstrate an understanding of the assignment by telling me, by summarizing it? Did you give me a numbered list? And note that it says numbered. So a lot of times students are like, well, I put a list in there, and I'm like, attention to detail, very important. Give me a numbered list. And the reason why I say numbered list is because we want to literally go step by step. Okay. Did you tell me what your topics were? And then did you indicate what your questions were? And again, like I said, if you have no questions, that's perfectly fine. You just have to indicate that in your writing. Otherwise, you haven't focused or you haven't completed this portion of the assignment. Okay. So once you've created that document, you click Start Assignment, and then you will upload it. So you will click Browse, you'll find it, you'll click on the assignment or the document, click Open, and then you will click this box that says the submission is my own original work, and then click Submit Assignment. Okay. So that is the general overview of this course paper pre-assignment. If you still have questions, let me know, send me a message, and hopefully we can get those questions answered. All right, thanks.